Hi, welcome back to another edition of the Vartek podcast. We're entering into episode 2. I'm Misty Arthur, Director of Technology Integration here at Vartek, and we're excited to continue our series of lessons learned from our integration team as they speak to the spring and summer of 2020. Today, our host Lee Jacobs is going to talk with Joey Legg, Classroom Technology Coach at Dorado School District in Arkansas, about his experience during the end of the 2019-2020 school year. Now, let's take a bite out of knowledge.
Okay, we have Joey Legg here. Why don't you tell us, Joey, where you are and what you do for us?
Thanks, Lee. Yeah, like you said, I'm Joey. I am in El Dorado, Arkansas. I work for Vartek at the El Dorado School District. I am the Classroom Technology Coach, and I'm also a systems tech, but the majority of what I do is I work with teachers to help implement integration into their classroom instruction.
Probably had quite a lot of people leaning on you pretty hard.
It's been quite a transition for me because I'm pretty new to Vartek, actually. I've only been with Vartek for about 4 months now. To put that in perspective for you, my first day was March 11th. And on March 13th, I was in meetings with the superintendent, assistant superintendent, and principals talking about our distance learning plan, and schools were closed 2 days later. So it was a pretty quick start for me moving into this. The beginning of my second week was students getting everything ready to take it home. And we actually started with something that Arkansas calls AMI packets, alternative method to instruction. So our first 3 weeks of distance education was not virtual. It was actually packets. The first week, the students were doing one packet, and then they had spring break, and then the third week, they did another packet. So we actually didn't jump into distance learning for 3 weeks. So that gave me a couple weeks to do professional development with teachers and develop plans with principals and administration. To give it, we had a little bit of some leeway, even it sounds dramatic. My third day we were doing that, but we had a little bit of leeway, and that was nice, and it gave us a chance to get some of that in perspective. It wasn't very much time, considering people that do this in normal circumstances spend up to 6 months to a year to prepare for this with professional developments and just planning. So 3 weeks didn't feel like very much time at all.
How prepared were you going into that pivot, considering you came in on your first day, thinking and talking about that transition?
Yeah, so for me, I'm just now coming back into technology with education. I've been in technology for about 11 years now, and different aspects of it. I was a high school teacher about 16 years ago. I taught for about 8 years on and off. And so I have an education background, but coming back, I've been in the medical sector with IT, and then also with a camp and conference center and a college. So I've done a lot with IT in the last 10 years. With a college, colleges are definitely different than the secondary and primary school systems, K through 12 education. But when coming into it, I was like, I have some time to transition back into this. This is going to be just fine. And then I felt pretty unprepared, to be completely honest with you. I feel like I'm familiar with Google Classroom, video conferencing programs, G Suite, online platform management. And I also consider myself a lifelong learner. I have spent a lot of time following blogs and YouTube channels, and preparing for going into this position, I did a lot of research on my own and just conversations within my networks, professional networks, on how to prepare for this. So saying that, getting there, I felt very overwhelmed because the scope of what we had to do, and then the time frame, and it being an emergency situation, was staggering. And so what saved me with this was Vartek was great because we have an integration team because Vartek works with multiple school districts. I don't know the exact number, Lee. You maybe can help me with that. But I believe it's like 12 or something like that. But when I had a group of people going directly in, other classroom technology coaches, and then academic technology coaches, we have an integration team of, I believe it's 6 people now. And I started meeting with them week 1. And they pointed me in the direction of articles, of blogs to follow, YouTube channels, which one of my favorite is Pocket Full of Primary, great YouTube channel. for EdTech. And so when I started reading through that and realizing I wasn't by myself, but I had a network through Vartek, and I even had our El Dorado Vartek team here too, it was easy to realize that didn't have to be a Lone Ranger. I wasn't expected to be a Lone Ranger. I had a team. I was probably, I was the sidekick more than any Ranger.
Right. Yeah. So I think for someone like you who really is a learner and someone who likes to have the resources and likes to be prepared, I know going into, that kind of uncertainty can feel very disorienting and you don't feel prepared. But you just imagine what the experience is like for the people who don't have the teammates who can help you, who maybe don't have the district leadership that you have that said, we don't know if we're going to be transitioning right now, but we're going to go ahead and start today. And that gave you at least an extra day of, preparing and making those plans.
Yeah, so we had it pretty good when it came to that. I think everybody kind of starts in the same place, but yeah, we have a great district. I love the leadership at our district, and they're great to work with. They welcomed me instantly. I didn't feel like I had to earn a spot at the table. I was given one, and that was wonderful. So yeah, you're very right. I'm blessed to have that.
Yeah. So being the process that this was for everyone in every school, when I talked to Angel, she definitely had, she had been there for a little bit longer, was maybe a little bit more prepared, more familiar with the district. But even so, once things started, she knew right away what she wanted to do, what she wanted to try. And once it became apparent that it was going to be a little bit longer process than I think a lot of people set out, she realized, maybe there were some things she could have done differently. So what are some of the things maybe you learned along the way that you would change?
Yeah, so we did the same thing as Angel. We were very specific on what we were going to do. We actually have 4 platforms that we were going to support and support only. And we had a 3-step implementation program that we were going to do that we followed to the letter. And so we did the same thing. We came out confident. And when we did professional development, we did all those type of things. And as we started going, we the same thing as Angel. We started to realize that we didn't want to stay where we started. We wanted to evolve past that. And some of the things that I wish I would have known or done differently, right off the bat, one of a very practical thing, I wish I would have been more laser focused with my trainings, with the professional development I did for the teachers, and especially the ones that I did for parents and students. Because what I did, I went with, for the most part, 6 to 20 minutes. A couple of the shorter ones were 6 minutes, a couple of the longer ones were 20 minutes, usually about 12 to 15 minute long videos that tackle the entire subject. And now that I'm in the process of redoing them, to make this more succinct, I am creating a live document that is in FAQ format, frequently asked questions format, and each video is only 1 to 3 minutes, and the video only answers one question. So a teacher or a parent or a student, they're like, oh, I can't do this. They go to this live document, it's organized by section, and then they're able to get a quick, succinct answer that answers the question that they're answering. That's one of the big things. And the second thing that I really wish I would have known to focus on more was the parents and the students. I am, plus giving instruction to the teachers on how to be there for the parents and students. I guess both. I wish I would have focused more on the students, but also would have prepared the teachers to do it more also. I think that's what I'm doing now. I'm trying to do both. I'm doing some pedagogy with the teachers and how to get them to where they can help their students, but I'm also doing direct resources with parents and students. Like even one thing with our virtual academy, we're starting in the fall. I'm going to I'm going to be developing a training, and somebody from our team will do a face-to-face with each parent and student that's going to be doing the virtual academy, those type of things. And Another thing that I really wish I would have known and had, which was out of my control, it was just having the relationship and the familiarity with the district and the leadership in the district and the teachers. And like our district has a tech council, and I haven't got to meet with the whole council yet, but I've got to meet with several individuals, and they're a huge resource for our district. And instead of me, just one person, I feel like we're a larger district, at least for this area, we're a larger district. I'm one person being a classroom technology coach. And when I can work with people that are invested in this district and from this area, it's going to be so much far reaching. So that's one of the things I'm going to be doing as soon as I can, is getting more in contact with that district technology council. And the one last thing is, everybody knows this is common sense. Doing this type of thing in a rush is not a great idea, but we had to. I wish I would have been in the job long enough, like you said with Angel, to have contingency plans in place, emergency plans. And then also, I would have loved us to have been moving more towards blended learning, true blended learning, and not just have to go to distance learning completely with no step in between.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So how do you think, here's one of the things that you touched on a little bit, and I think this is one of the most important things, is what was the experience like for all the different stakeholders? So the teachers and the students, yes, but there's also tech leadership like yourself, there are parents, there are district leadership, community members. So what do you think the process and the transition to distance learning looked like for some of those groups?
Just like for anybody, it was kind of hectic. And I think we tend to be resilient in the education community and the tech community. And especially I'm seeing in all these communities around us, everybody's being resilient. They're rolling with the punches. They realize that this is not ideal. We don't want this. It was unexpected, but for making the best of the situation, especially when it comes to the education realm.
What are some of the things now that it's time to turn to the fall? What are some of the things that you're thinking about? You touched on a little bit of this, and what do you think people should be looking for and thinking about?
Yeah, so with us specifically, we wanted to decide what we were going to do. And it was announced to our district just a few days ago about how we're moving forward. But like you said, too, we have contingencies in place, but we are starting in the brick and mortar classroom. We're going to be focusing more on blended learning, getting students using Google Classroom in the classroom, using the LMS in the classroom, using online submission in the classroom, these type of things. So if we do have to transition back to where we're completely on from the schools, it's there. But also we're starting a virtual academy, and that's a new venture for our school district. So we're getting deep into that, everything from policy to execution to coming up with schedules. All that's happening right now. I've gotten to sit in a couple committees with that. That's been fun being a part of that. But so what we're considering, we have a lot of considerations that we're using to make these decisions. One of the things we've been looking at screen time averages by grade level. How long should a student be in front of a screen engaged versus not in a home situation is what I'm specifically talking about now. And one of those, the only one I can remember off the top of my head is K through 2, 1.7 hours. That's the max that you're wanting them to have. And how do we take that 1.7 hours with a 5 to 7-year-old sitting at their house with a learning coach? We are requiring learning coaches for anything full virtual for K through 6. What do we do? What do we do to get the most out of that little bit of time? And it's actually not that much more even for high school seniors. We want to know what that appropriate time is, and we're wanting to also be very efficient with that time that we have. And we're considering how the students are going to learn. Like I said, we're asking for learning coaches to be there K through 6. We're looking at giving our teachers a professional development and how to proctor well, whether it being in the classroom and students are taking tests in Google Classroom, or if they're watching on Google Meet or Zoom and students are taking tests there, how can they proctor? What are some strategies? How can we combat plagiarism, cheating, different things like that? And looking at something I'm passionate about is remembering a digital classroom is still a classroom. We still have a responsibility as teachers to have classroom management skills. And technology is not going to fix everything for us. We have to have policy and we have to have, what does it look like? How can you do in-school suspension, which we don't want to do, that's a last-ditch effort, but how can you do in-school suspension in virtual classrooms? Different things like that. We've looked into different things, and one of the things we've talked about is like, we're going to have like in-school suspension packets, but for digital classrooms, so they can temporarily lose for up to 3 days the ability to be in the digital classroom, and they get paper packets instead. And like I said, we don't want to do that. That's the last thing in the world we want to do, but we want to keep, as teachers and as administration, we want our students to have a safe, distraction-free place, mostly distraction-free place,
right,
to be able to learn effectively. And so we're thinking about all those kind of things. We're thinking about practical things like ed tech solutions, not overwhelming people. There were literally thousands of lists with all these free products. Like, oh my goodness, what do I do? Where do I start? So
yeah, I've got some of those spreadsheets in my inbox too. And at first it was very exciting. I've seen some great ones. I've seen some good stuff.
Yeah.
I've shared certainly and added to some of those, but my goodness, there are quite a lot. It is overwhelming, especially for parents who, you know, we just want to know the 3 things the kid needs to, you know, do their schoolwork, right?
Exactly. We're trying to limit to start with 4 to 5, the same we did in the spring. We're adjusting, but we have to be flexible too. So one of the things that we just decided to do using the Tech Council, we're going to have teachers request new and useful ed tech solutions that they're finding. They're going to turn in a form, and then we don't know how often, maybe once a month at the beginning, but eventually maybe once a quarter, we're going to have the Tech Council look over that and make recommendations to the district administration and decide if we want to purchase or use and how we're going to do professional development with that. So we want to be able to evolve. Like one example is Flipgrids. Flipgrids jumped onto the scene, became huge, and everybody wants to use it. I'm like, well, we're going to have to break our own rule and start using Flipgrids, and some different things like that. Some great, another one was we injected Loom last minute, which is a screen capture software. And so we don't want to be blind to those type of things. And we want the teachers to have a voice, and because they know they're the ones in the trenches doing all this, and they know what's going to work and what doesn't. And I can't sit over here in my office and say, well, no, this technology is a one-all fit for everybody. We make exceptions. We do the best that we can, but that's what those are some of the things that we're considering going into the fall. And we're still pretty new into the process. We've only been running for about maybe 3 to 4 weeks right now. And we have about 5 or 6 left now. So we got our work.
It's moving fast. Yeah. I think, I think that approach makes sense though. People who are, and educators who are maybe a little bit more savvy, who have a specific tool that really works for them, those are the people that you want to enable them to use. But for most people, they don't want that many options. They want something that's kind of vetted. They're not dying of thirst. They're drowning, right?
Yes,
so
exactly.
having a process, I think is really good for weeding through that. And I think that's something that those of us, guilty here, who have been sending around spreadsheets that we think are extremely helpful for the past few months, maybe try to boil it down for people. Yeah. So that's really great. I appreciate your taking a little bit of time to speak with me. It's been great to talk with you. I'll try.